When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
In Walmart Sue Newville, time was ticking away. Only a few nights left till the big holiday. But last-minute gifters had no need to worry. Walmart Express Delivery got their gifts in a hurry. From Nintendo to Nespresso and Lego flowers, they could check off their lists in as fast as an hour. All of Who Newville, East, West, South, and North could order gifts up until 5 p.m. on December 24th. So this holiday, just do as the Who's do. With gift delivery this fast, they all gasped. From Walmart, who knew? Subject to availability, terms and fees apply.
Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Mental Health 101. Mental Health 101 is created to empower, of course, mental health awareness. And today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book, The Great Slapping, other than Mr. Yogi Mueller.
Hello, Daniel. Good to see you again, sir.
Welcome to Mental Health 101, Mr. Yogi. Likewise. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. Name is Yogi Mueller. I am out of Orlando, Florida, and I'm owner and chief craftsman of Craft Leadership LLC, which is a bespoke consultancy to help you unlock your potential. And as Daniel mentioned, I just released my first book, The Great Slapping, The Power of Mentorship.
Yes, the power of mentorship. That's why Mr. Yogi is here on Mental Health 101 to give us insight or experiences about mental health awareness. Mr. Yogi, how has mental health awareness evolved beyond social media hashtags into meaningful action, and where does performative activism still fall short?
Wow, you're starting with the heavy hitter question there. Could you repeat that for me, Daniel?
No worries at all. So, in short, why mental health awareness is very important to us nowadays?
So I think we have become a society where we are getting more comfortable sharing where our emotions are. We are comfortable sharing with individuals in therapy. I mean, therapy is a very a viable thing these days that you're not going to necessarily see, 40, 50 years ago, where people are like, yeah, I saw my therapist last week. Nobody shared that, right? But now you have this comfortability with getting in touch with your emotions and not burying it down inside. And so when you do that, when you do let those out, when you do confront them, you need to make sure that you are working with individuals that are trained and important, that has that training and that background, that education to support you through working through those emotions. So I think there's this level of just understanding that therapy is a part of many people's lives.
Definitely. And Mr. Yogi, how does this stigma manifest as discrimination or self blame that prevents people from seeking help?
I think from a self-blame perspective, I think people are very tough on themselves occasionally, not always, right? But I think sometimes guilt comes, and again, Daniel, I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on TV. But in working with a lot of people in the coaching business that I do, and in the mentoring that I've done over the years, there are individuals that will look at something that happened either through their work or around them that didn't have their direct impact, or there wasn't a direct participation in it, but yet they felt responsible for it, and they beat themselves up pretty hard. I
Yes.
think people are their own worst critics, and oftentimes when we are given as humans blanks to fill in terms of how we view things, we tend to fill them in with the most negative and nihilistic adjectives and adverbs. And so people at times take a view of something that they become incredibly, just, for lack of a better term, kind of self-absorbed in the situation. And it becomes a part of them, and it's very difficult for them to separate that and see that is something that potentially can be adjusted, fixed, or that they didn't have any responsibility for, but yet it feels that it falls on their shoulders.
Beautifully, beautifully articulated, Mr. Yogi. Thank you so much for empowering us. And why do some communities or communities of color, men, or older generation face unique resistance to discussing mental health? And how can awareness efforts respect these nuances?
Daniel, I don't have a lot. I don't have the experiences of people with that have the different backgrounds of color and race and other experiences. So I can't say for sure, right? In those situations, I only have my experience to learn from, but I can only imagine, especially the older generations that you mentioned, the level of systemic discrimination that you would see in certain areas, especially in the medical and the mental health fields, as well as in some cultures. I will tell you just a personal story. I was working with an individual who was an employee of mine who was from another country. English was a second language of his, and I was trying to share how to do something. I was trying to train him on something, and he would always say, "Yep, I understand it. I know it. I know it. I know it." But when it came for him to apply that, he didn't do it, and he would never say that he didn't know something. And I found out later through a friend of his that he was from a country originally or a culture originally, where if he showed any kind of weakness, he could be physically harmed, if not killed. And
Yes.
so the thought of letting his boss know that he didn't know something, he was terrified of sharing that. So not only was there potential systemic racism, but you also come from cultures where that level of vulnerability is not only not appreciated, it might not be allowed, right? So I don't claim to understand everybody's experience, and I never will. But I can only imagine, with what I know, some of the challenges that they may be facing or had
Definitely.
faced.
Definitely. And Mr. Yogi, the great slapping, did you discuss about mental health?
I discovered that people need people.
Yes.
I think one of the chapters that I cover is the concept that no man is an island, and that we are all amalgamations of the experiences that we've had with people in our lives. And some people tend to go through with blinders on, not understanding the roles that other play. And I think it's very important that we as a society, we as a species, we as a human culture, we go forward and we understand that, hey, it's okay to need people. Literally, we survived as a species not being eaten by saber-toothed tigers because we bound together and supported one another, not just in communal things, but I think it also applies to the individual. And so I think from a mentorship standpoint, if you find somebody that believes in you and wants to invest in you, that's tremendously valuable. But it's okay to admit that you need somebody like that you want to get expertise from someplace else. It doesn't mean you're weak. We are not islands. And to get from point A to point B, as they say, it may take a village, and that's okay. And that's okay.
Indeed. And Mr. Yogi, if you want to do a follow up of the book, The Great Slapping, to a mental health awareness, can you do that?
I think what I would do there is I would partner with actual licensed therapists and counselors and really make the connections between a traditional mentorship relationship and the level of communication that's in there, often for people that are not trained in the mental health businesses, and then look to the mental health practitioners and find out there's a lot of similar types of conversations and topics and methodologies used in coaching people on a mentorship professional world as it would also be in a mental health world as well. And I'd love to maybe look at both of those worlds and validate the work that mentors do organically that is practiced through licensing and clinical efforts in the mental health business.
Looking forward for that, Mr. Yogi. And please do come over and book 101 review and let's talk about it. And how can employers move beyond token of wellness programs to address toxic productivity and unsustainable workloads and psychological safety on mental health awareness?
I think I would boil that down to one, awareness, and communication. So the more you're aware of what's going on in your organization, the types and styles and dynamics of communication that are happening, that there is a sense of you have a strong value system and values in the organization, and that you're holding people accountable to those values. I think if you have those, that promotes mental health awareness in your organization. And also, as a leader, you would have those backup devices, those support networks to support those individuals that might be challenged with some mental health issues that they're dealing with. If you are a leader that doesn't engage, that stays far away, that locks their door, that doesn't spend time with your employees, that doesn't feel that their mental health is part of productivity, is part of the culture that you're propagating in your organization, that's when you're going to have problems.
Definitely. And very well said, Mr. Yogi. Empowering answer. In your opinion, why are mental health conditions still poorly accommodated under disability frameworks compared to physical illness?
Daniel, I love your line of questioning, brother, but I don't have the background, I believe, to fully answer that question.
Yes, I understand. So, how do phrase like "just be positive" or "it's on your head" perpetuate?
I think that's highly destructive. In fact, I heard of a case many years ago where a leader tried to teach one of his employees something, and the employee couldn't get it. And he said, "Well, this isn't rocket science." Well, the young man sued for harassment and evidently won. Now, I'd have to check the veracity of it, but that's kind of the urban myth. And I think there's a lot to that, right? Because I think mental constructs that are created by the people that you are in, that you should be trusting, that are there for your support, like your leaders. I think words are very powerful. And I think you can absolutely tear somebody down and take them out at the knees by your language, by your inability to support them, or your ability to just criticize and create those negative experiences where, if you only set the bar this high, that's only the higher the person that's going to jump. And so people like parents or bosses or school counselors, they have a lot of power over where you feel you can go. And if you're creating that environment where it belittles somebody's belief in their own value and you had a hand in it, that is a dangerous
Dangerous.
precedent that you're setting.
Definitely dangerous indeed. And what does holding space for someone's struggle look like in a practice when fixing is not helpful?
Compassion.
Definitely, yes.
That is often the missing ingredient. And everybody struggles with something, Daniel. We all know that. You and I, we're struggling with something that we don't share with everybody, but it's the truth. It's what we deal with, right? And I think when you are leading somebody, obviously in a business, you have an opportunity you have a responsibility to lead the business to be productive. But that responsibility also lies to your people. And I'm a firm believer in compassionate leadership. I'm a firm believer in understanding the holistic approach to creating a positive culture in your organization. And that includes the mental health. That includes resource groups. That includes communication and opportunity to build bridges and not burn them down because of some number that's not being met. We talk a lot about the three-legged stool of business, the people, product, and process. And if that people leg of the stool is broken or weak or falling apart, the whole stool falls over. So I would argue that was the most important leg of that business stool.
Definitely. And people nowadays misunderstood the power of compassion. Please, people, be compassionate, be kind, give empathy for those people need those traits because you will help them to be better in our society. What are common mistakes, well-intentioned people make when supporting others? Like how to avoid them.
In lieu of mentorship and in lieu of that relationship that people have, often becoming someone's parent. When you want to take care of somebody, when somebody's struggling, and you go in there and you want to solve all their problems, you want to cradle them in a fetal position and just hold on to them. That's not always the most productive thing. I tell leaders all the time, you can be responsible to people, but you can't be responsible for them. So I think from a layman standpoint, somebody that's not a licensed mental health person, I think you need to understand where those lines in the sand are in terms of wanting to help and how you help other people, providing resources, providing space and time necessary for them to work through what they need. I think is that important. But when you start trying to diagnose, you start trying to treat that's when you cross the line. And I think though that then needs to be handled by a mental health professional. And sometimes I think we either get to that point and try to maybe take care of it ourselves, or we don't think it's as big a problem as it is. Like I said, I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on TV, but I'm not gonna diagnose you to say something's an issue or something's not an issue. That's not in my wheelhouse. That's not where my expertise lies. So at that point, there needs to be a trigger point, as they say, to then make sure it's passed on to somebody that can professionally handle those situations.
Definitely. And Mr. Yogi, in your opinion, why are mental health services chronically underfunded globally? What the policy shift could rebalance this?
Wow. Policy statements, brother. I'm telling you, you were asking the tough questions tonight, brother. I unfortunately, funding has not caught up with the prevailing appreciation for therapy and understanding where that is. 200 years ago, they'd lock you up for having an asthma attack. They called it hysteria, or something like that, right? And
Yes.
so nowadays, where you have more people able to identify and understand how to work through some mental health issues they might have, I think the populace is farther along than the institutions and the funding required for proper mental health is lagging in that. And do I have the silver bullet for that? Unfortunately, I don't. I would just preach continued awareness and absolutely within your own sphere of influence in your world, whether it's personal or professional, and you see somebody that may be struggling, there are free resources out there. Just to familiarize yourself with them and make sure that you're offering them if you see somebody's hurting, because that's the best way to take care of that issue within your own sphere of influence.
Definitely. And Mr. Yogi, as advocating mental health awareness, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Again, I'm gonna go back to probably the couple main points. One is compassion, and it's almost a passé phrase, cliche, that somebody is dealing with something, and I think if you have that as your your mantra as you go through and you interact and you meet with new people and you deal with customers, you deal with employees, you deal with clients, whatever it is, knowing that they're probably going through something too, and some of them might be on the verge of something. Having awareness of that and making sure that you're not a catalyst for exacerbating that problem. 2, understanding and awareness of resources out there. And 3, Daniel, I think is your own self-awareness. Because if you are struggling, pick up a phone, call a friend, connect with somebody that knows you and can be compassionate, or a professional, because there's nothing more tragic, as I say in my book, than potential unrealized. And people that are suffering from serious mental health issues, sometimes the paths they chose are tragic. And that absolutely is potential unrealized. And that is a loss to humanity there.
Definitely, people, if you need help, please do ask for help. And for sure, they will help you. We are here, Mr. Yogi and I. If you need our help, please do call us or email us. And for sure,
Please reach out.
Reach out. That's the key, people.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Yogi, why must mental health support be embedded in primary care, schools, or workplaces to normalize it?
I think you said it right there. To normalize it. That's why I think, people nowadays, when I go see the doctor, whether it's just for like an annual checkup, they'll say, "So how are you feeling, Mr. Mueller? Are you feeling okay? Are you having any negative?" I mean, so even in my experience, that layer of mental health care has been layered into something that I've been doing for over 50 years.
Yes.
But now they're asking those questions. They didn't 10 years ago. So I think we're seeing progress. I think we're seeing the normalization of mental health in there, not in the medical field. And then they're trained that depending on what you answer, they have options for you. They have resources. I can't tell you how prevalent it is or how widespread it is, but I will tell you in my own personal medical journeys that I've taken over the last 5 years, I've seen that happen all the time now.
And what would a society focus on preventing mental health crisis look like?
Well, I think if you look at the last millennia of human evolution, that's what we had. Right? We had an unawareness of mental health issues. We had a fear of mental health issues. We had misdiagnosis of mental health issues. And while we progressed as a species, I think right now what we need to do is we need to look how we go forward, because what got us here is not going to get us to the next phase of our evolution if we continue to not embrace mental health, if we continue to not understand our need to talk through some things, if we understand our need that some of us need additional help and professional help to work through some of these things, and it's not always healthy to bury that down deep. That's going to require a whole kind of paradigm shift going forward, and we're seeing baby steps. But I think to fully embrace it or embedded into, I think that was your word, embedded into our medical kind of history, our medical culture, we're going to get there, but it's going to be tough. It's going to take a while, I think.
Definitely. But if you have a unity to beat mental health, well, illnesses, we can do it as a humanity. And Mr. Yogi, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in 5th season, abstract poetry in 2nd season, and my book 101 review in 5th season too. Comedy 101 in 2nd season, and my food 101 as in 5th season as well. Geography 101 in 4th season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101 101, Love Letters in the third season, and my Movie 101 review and Music 101 in the fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Yogi, if you could dismantle one barrier of mental health equity tomorrow, what would it be and why?
The stigma behind asking for help.
Yes.
The stigma of not being, you're being weak, you're not being masculine, you're not a team player, you're not pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. There are serious issues out there. I've had friends that have committed suicide and they didn't reach out for help. And that will haunt me for the rest of my life. And I can't imagine what their family was going through. So get over the stigma, embrace the grit, as I say in my world, and reach out and ask for help, because there are people out there that want to help you and have paths for you to better health.
Yes, people, embrace the grit. And Mr. Yogi Mueller, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom on Mental Health 101. And so can you please, yes, and can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or any projects that you're doing right now?
Please, you can find The Great Slapping, The Power of Mentorship on Amazon.com. And visit my website, craftleadership.net.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Yogi Mueller, because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books to come, more and more and more embrace the grid to come, and for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Mr. Yogi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
More to come, people. See you soon. Why it's turned on air?